Great to have you with us. Now, President Akufo-Addo is scheduled to publicly present the constitutional instrument heralding the creation of 6 new regions this week. In a statement signed by Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, the President will host the delegations on the 12th and the 13th and the 15th of February. The statement said delegations comprising chiefs and people of the new regions have been invited to Jubilee House in Accra for the official ceremonies. Now, while congratulating the chiefs and people, government expects that the creation of the new regions will be a further boost to their development. This follows the December 27, 2018 referendum in the 6 affected areas that massively approved the creation of the regions. Ahead of that, there are reports of tension in some of the areas and others lobbying for their towns or cities to be selected as regional capitals. At Nkranza, some residents are demonstrating ahead of the announcement of the new regional capital for the proposed Bono East region. Ahead of a press conference by the Traditional Council, the youth is calling on President Akufo-Addo to ensure that promises made to them on the selection of the Bono East capital are fulfilled.
I will get to Bono East. That's my. Let's get to referendum. And Prasamai, Hajiki, young Quadman, you're to the Fefe. Me, I say, and Prasamai in Assassin. Ketapo North, Ketapo South, Brasa North, Brasa South, Sasan Prasamai, you the mainstream 9. What? Yeah, I am Assassin. You're to the Fefe. I feel the other would say, young petition. Now I hope a capital.
Meanwhile, the Traditional Council is alleging it's being sidelined in the selection of the regional capital. A statement signed by the Adonte Hene of the Nkranza Traditional Council, Nana Okofo-Japan IV, catalogued their concerns. Now, he has joined me live for the details of their request. Nana, we understand you are saying you've been sidelined because government did not call you for a couple of meetings. Which meetings were these?
Hello, can you please come back again?
I am asking, which meetings were you not called for which reason you are saying government has sidelined you in the creation of the region and the districts, the new capitals?
Thank you very much, and then greetings to your listeners, and then those who are watching Joy News. I'm Nana Usidamwame of the Boabengi. Yeah, on the issue of sideline, I think the quiet reason I can say is on the 7th of February, which was last week Thursday, the meeting was called in Sunyani. We thank Nananum for their contribution and then their support of creating Bono East and then inviting them to the Flagstaff House for the constitutional mandate of, announcing the Bono East capital. The Nkranza Traditional Council wasn't invited at all.
Now, Nana, in the past, you refer in your statements to a meeting called in Sunyani to discuss a petition from 13 out of the 14 paramountcies against the change of name from Brong to Bono. And you said Nananum were not invited because they vehemently objected to the change of name from Brong to Bono. This is true.
Yeah, I think we are of the position that the name Bono shouldn't be changed to Bono. And I think you can count the 13 out of the 14 that Nkranza Paramountcy didn't invited on that voting meeting.
Okay.
So I think if you have objected to something and then when the decision is being made and you are not being called, what would you say? It's a clear indication that because we oppose the changing of the name from Bono to the Bono, that is why we were not, invited for such important meeting.
Do you think it's because you have objected some of these things in the past that now you are not being called for the future meetings because that's not the only meeting?
I think it's quite clear. It's quite clear. Because if we are about 10 and we are doing something, and then you think that your greatest contender is competing against you, you find a way to eliminate that person. And I think that is an issue that the minister with his deputy and then Professor Miawa Kumfi, all being Techiman indigents, and they are leading this role, have done. And that is our observation. So it is a call. It is a call to the president that this is what they've done to Nkranzaman, and this is what they have done to Nkranza Traditional Council. And you can, observe that when a car is given to a whole region for campaign, I don't think the car should reside in only one place without going to the other sectors. And as a sector minister who is supposed to tell town and know the concerns of the people, the minister, since the referendum, I don't know if he has ever visited Nkranza, Paramount, to even sensitize us on whatever is going on. And this clearly happened last week when they went for their meeting. Because we learned he was in northern or Savannah region, and then it is where, those allegations that the two contenders of the Bono East capital is between Techiman and the Nativities.
So you believe that those on the Techiman side, you've named Professor Amiawe Kumfi, the former Minister of Education, are trying to eliminate the Nkranza side from the contention for regional capital.
That is our observation. We are not saying in 100% they've done so. But then we think leading those positions and then observing weaving sidelines and being people who are from those Techiman, we can strongly say that.
Finally, Nana, you mentioned that some vehicles were distributed for campaign. Who distributed these vehicles?
The government.
So governments through the Ministry of Regional Reorganization?
Exactly so.
They gave cars for the Yes campaign?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Nana, for joining us. Right, we stay in that part of the country because crop farmers in Kintampo North say they are frustrated by the invasion of their farms by nomadic herdsmen and their cattle. Despite assurances by the Municipal Assembly to deal with the menace, the farmers remain skeptical about the impact of any such initiative. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
Joy News team came across these cattle moving into Al Hassan Kura, Babato, Gulumpe and other communities. It is unknown where the animals came from, as herdsmen declined to speak to the news team. The team, on its way back from Gulumpe, saw another herd of cattle crossing to the bush. Characteristic of the herdsmen, none of them will answer any question. Assembly member for Gulumpe East, Manube Oga, echoes the sentiment of the community in seeking solution to the challenge.
It has been very difficult to find a lasting solution to the herdsmen menace. We have not arrived at any amicable solution to even tell the municipal chief executive. We have never arrived at any decision in all the meetings we had.
Mr. Oga also gives insight into intervention efforts by the locals.
There should be a way to resolve this issue. Herdsmen should not cross their limit. In fact, they should be able to make good use of the land given to them.
Another local legislator, Emmanuel Kukote, recounts repeated complaints brought to his attention by both herdsmen and farmers.
The sources they are coming from, they pass through the bush and come to invade the whole area. However, some of the farmers also take advantages and kill the animals. So when it happened, see that there will be a feud between the farmers and the herdsmen. So 2017 to 2018, There were a lot of lonely herdsmen who were dead and killed by some of the farmers in the bush. So in fact, I am facing so many challenges. If people at the top there could come and help and rescue, in fact, I'm very grateful.
Mr. Kokote says his people are at crossroads because of the cattle invasion menace. He lamented no progress has been made over the years to give them relief.
Because my electoral area is, I should say, it's a crossroad. It's a very vantage point where the animals, every season, that is where they pass. Some of them pass there to Ejura, and there is a stream there or a river there we call Kwanya or Urukwan. That river is where they always lock horns. They go to graze and they come there to drink water. So I am expecting, but I'm praying that any unforeseen circumstances shouldn't happen.
Municipal Chief Executive Michael Sarkodie Bafo is however optimistic a solution will be found.
There was a kind of conflict, clash between and amongst the interested parties. Interested parties here meaning the herdsmen and then the crop farmers. That resulted in the death of, on record, about 18 people. So we are anticipating that very soon they will come. And we are putting in place, we want to continue to empower the communities and the committees, not to resort to self-help.
Mr. Bafo says permanent measures are being considered.
Within the community, maybe we have about 5 herdsmen with about 10 garikis, and we are unable to find out whose gariki or whose cattle went to do the destruction. Then they will be forced to combine and pay.
You know whether that is what is happening?
Yes, that is what is happening now. So now the Fulanis are compelled. Some of them come out to say that, look, I didn't take my cattle towards that direction. This man did. They are helping. They are also helping us. And it got to a point that the farmers were also killing the bulls. Yes.
There are suggestions government could make huge revenue by paying attention to the cattle value chain. Dr. Jacob Hamidu is animal scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
In Ghana, we have not actually developed what we call the cattle value chain. This is the reason why we are having all these problems. So it is high time we take time to develop this cattle value chain. And that is what I'm trying to bring on board the Sudubaba Foundation. And if you have a very good value chain, it means that you will know the place to go for training. You will know where to obtain feed for your cattle. You will know where to get the best of animals. You will know where to get the knowledge about the animals. And therefore you will not struggle. But we are still living or raising our cattle like it is a business for only a small set of people in Ghana, which is only Fulani. But I think we should move away from that mindset. And if we begin to see cattle as for everybody, we won't have this problem.
Muhammad Nuruddin's reports for Joy News.
Now, the District Security Council of Wa East in the Upper West region will be meeting later today on Saturday's clash over Rosewood. 3 persons were picked up by the Wa East police in connection with Saturday's bloody clash at Funsi in the Wa East district of the Upper West region. 2 persons died and 2 others severely wounded when 2 groups clashed over Rosewood. Joy News' Rafiq Salam, he corresponds for us in that region, joins me on the line with updates on the DISEC meeting. Rafiq, when is the meeting taking place? What are the issues likely to be discussed? Rafiq, if you can hear me, we want to know when the meeting will take place and what are the issues likely to be discussed.
As I speak to you, the meeting is currently ongoing at the Wa East District Capital, at Fancy, where the District Chief Executive, Moses Joti, who also doubles as the chairman of the committee, where they are holding that particular meeting. And so he told me that the meeting was going to end around 2 p.m. This afternoon. And what they are going to do, what they are going to look at, they are going to look at as last Saturday's disturbance, which led to the death of 2 persons and then 2 also seriously injured at the Wa Upper West Regional Hospital. And so they will be looking at measures that they will put in place for them to stop the indiscriminate cutting of Rosewood from the East district of the Upper West region. Like I said, in the Upper West region, all districts and municipalities in the Upper West region, they are doing Rosewood. They are cutting, illegal cutting. But what East and then some Sisala East are the worst or the hardest hit in that respect. And so they're going to look at those issues and then give up penalty measures in order to curb it.
Thank you, Rafiq Salam, for joining us. He is the correspondent for Joy News in the Upper West region. Now, the extension of duration for expiry of passports in Ghana has been met with mixed feelings from the citizenry. Some members of the public say, though it's a good policy, they want the passport office to revise their mode of issuing passports to make the process less cumbersome. Joy News' Roland Walker has been interacting with some members of the public. Here are their thoughts.
The acquisition of passports is always an important endeavor that many Ghanaians want to undertake. The question is it everybody who needs a passport? So now the directive to all Ghana's missions by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the duration should be extended from 5 to 10 years seems to be a welcoming news for those Ghanaians who are eager to acquire a passport. But for example, if you have to apply online for a passport, it also means that you have to go through some of the torrid times after the application to collect these passports. It's a concern that many Ghanaians think need to be improved, especially when we know that we're extending the years from 5 to 10.
Taking from 5 years to 10 years, for me, I think is very good. Because at times when you have to go for maybe an interview or something, you have to also check your expiration date on your passport. So if it's just about maybe 3 months or 2 months, you just have to also go in for a queue and wait before you get your passport. So yes, for 5 years and 10 years, I think it's very good. But then, if we can also fill a form like they said online, we can get our passport being delivered to us at home like how you do it in UK, it will be very good.
I think the 10 years is working because 5 years, if someone travel within 2 or 3 times, he has to come and renew it. So I think the 10 years.
But there's also the convenience. Do you think that the passport office needs to improve the convenience? Because sometimes you go around there, people sit down, even though they say there's online, etc. What's your own experience on this?
I think if they are loading the system regularly, I think people will not be coming there and there will be a traffic over there.
For me, it's a very good idea. But the only problem I have is if they will increase the pages, then that will be very good. Me, I've not tried the online before, so I don't know how good the online is. I normally do the manual one.
Actually, I think it's going to help the citizens because most of the people traveling short places like Lagos or Aflao, other places, sometimes because of how they traveled, within a short time, the passport keep getting full. So I think if they are able to extend it, it's going to help so that at least if they get the booklet like 10 years, it's going to help.
You see, somebody may acquire a passport and is not ready to travel. 5 years just around the corner. It will come by a ton of air. So I think if it's 10 years, the one will get a vast distance, a period.
You mean the duration?
Yeah, duration.
A number of years?
Yes.
Now, there was tension at a Takoradi District Magistrate Court as suspected kidnapper Samuel Odoteng Wills claimed a police CID officer and one Kwesi assisted him in breaking police cells last December. Samuel Wills is accused of kidnapping at least 3 girls in Takoradi and its environs. According to police, he had been uncooperative with investigators. The suspect missed his last court appearance because he was apparently sent to Accra for some aspects of the investigation. He has been charged with 3 offences, which he pleaded not guilty to any of them. Now, the 3 charges are escaping from lawful custody, causing unlawful damage, and resisting arrest. During his second court hearing, he said he was not guilty of escaping from lawful custody and causing unlawful damage with an explanation. Today, when His Worship Michael Ampedu asked him to explain why he was not guilty, he said he didn't escape on his own, but had assistance from a friend called Kwesi, who had supplied phytol oil and applied it on the rods to fasten the cutting of the rod, or to speed up, the cutting of the rod. He also made mention of a CID officer who assisted him in escaping, but when he was asked to mention his name, he said he doesn't know him by name, but can identify him if the Ghana Police Service can parade all their CID officials. This revelation caused a lot of tension as families and relatives expressed disappointment in the Ghana Police Service. Now, the court has adjourned the case to the 18th of February for suspect Samuel Udotek Wills to bring his witness called Kwesi. You're still live on Joy News today with me, Daniel Dazi. She did not see the signs of physical abuse in her marriage, but she endured 5 years of emotional and mental abuse from her husband. That's the story of Habiba, who was battered before her 2 children and left to her fate. Recounting her chilling audio, Habiba said every blow that landed on her face, which was her husband's target, left her with just one question. Could this be the last blow? Here's the story of a victim of domestic violence who has chosen to speak up and save many more women who may be going through a similar ordeal. Martha Quentelacqua reports.
I went into, depression 5 months ago. My kids were taken away from me for a while. My mommy took my kids for a while, and when I got better, they gave my kids back to me.
When I saw the pictures of how Habiba looked the night her husband allegedly physically assaulted her, I was taken aback, with blood gushing from under her eye. Then she showed me pictures of her swollen head after she had been cleaned up at the 37 military hospital where she sought medical attention. She still has very visible marks on her face from the bruises she suffered, something she hides so well with her sunglasses and veil. She narrated what happened that Monday night in her matrimonial home at Lakeside Estate.
My husband physically abused me. He beat the hell out of me. In fact, he punched my face and my head so many times and left me with bruises. And he left me bleeding in the midst of our children, in front of our children, while the elder one was crying and pleading with him to stop, but he just ignored and kept going at it. He just kept punching my face and punching my face, asking me to leave his house. And he wants to make sure he destroys my face so no other man will see me and marry me again. So we had
what started as an argument over decision to allow her husband spend time with his 3 other wives as she worked towards starting a new business did not go down well with the husband who had initially agreed. The horrifying ordeal of exchanging words, some of which were unprintable, and the physical assault that followed were witnessed by Habiba's 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
While the elder one was crying and pleading with him to stop, but he just ignored and kept going at it. He just kept punching my face and punching my face, asking me to leave his house. And he wants to make sure he destroys my face, so no other man will see me and marry me again. While all this was going on, my daughter was crying. Daddy, stop beating mommy. Daddy, stop beating my mommy. But he kept going on at it. So now the baby was crying, the little girl was crying and begging, but he just didn't listen to them.
Habiba recounts the punches were aimed only at her head and face, and her attempts to prevent them were fruitless.
He had a ring on. He just kept, not the wedding band sort of, no, the men fashion rings, the silver rings. Yes. So he kept throwing punches at me, left, right. I went down to protect my face, and I had both hands protecting my face, and now he was punching my head. So when I tried to remove one hand or both hands to protect my head, then he comes from down, like an uppercut sort of, and then hits from beneath, punching from beneath. So I don't know at what point he punched under my eye, then blood gushed out and spilled onto the wall. Then blood was I was just bleeding from my nose onto the ground. Is it going to be the last blow? It is going to be the last blow. But it kept on going. It kept on going till he was satisfied and said, "You can have me locked up." In Hausa, he said that you can have me locked up. I do not fear the law. So he walks out, opened the living room door wide out. He just had the door wide opened, opened the gate wide, took his car and sped off.
In her words, when my husband was satisfied, he left me bleeding with broken glasses, table and blood splattered on the wall, plus 2 children to console. She gathered the rest of the strength in her and drove to a nearby police station to lodge a complaint, where she was asked to go to a public hospital for a medical report. She recalls her father was shaking
when we got there,
when
I called
he
him
saw
to come
her.
out. We called him on phone to come out that we were at the gate. We didn't get down. And my father was shaking at that particular moment. So he sat in the car and he was accelerating, but the car wasn't going anywhere. Then he changes the gear. The car was still not moving. So I just put my left hand on his right hand and I said, "Daddy, start the engine." So that was when my father was able to really put himself together, started the engine, and then moved the car to 37.
Habiba says she is done listening to pleas from family members whenever her husband abused her. She is this time going all out to get justice and save other women.
But all he wants is to withdraw his name from media because he's a media personality. And I'm not doing that. I've, in the past 2 years, heard about such stories where women die and nothing happens to the men, especially in our Islamic community. All we say is, it is God's doing, so let's leave it to God. That's all we say. It is God's doing, so let's leave it to God. If you should go to the Zongo community, you will find most women dying, especially in these polygamous homes. Most women just die out of being beaten or other issues, but nobody says anything. The only thing is, it's God's doing. That's what God has arranged for the person, so let it be. Yes, we all believe in God. It's God's doing. But what steps have we taken to prevent these things? What steps have we taken to prevent these things? My husband gets away with these things. He's always telling me, "Get out of my house so I can go marry another woman." There are so many women. Get out of my house. I'm going to marry a new woman to come and put in this house. I built this house. Getting married is not expensive. Paying dowry is so cheap. It's 200 Ghana cedis and that is it. No anything else. Nothing else. It's just dowry and that is it. 200 Ghana cedis and finish. Or 300 cedis, maximum 500 Ghana cedis.
Martha Krenselakwa, Joy News, Accra.
Okay.
Our government has often cited Rwanda as a successful test case for the implementation of the drone delivery of essential medication and blood to rural areas. This is because the company behind the innovation, Zipline, implemented the project first in Rwanda, where supply of medication in some areas has been reduced from 5 hours to 30 minutes. As Ghana prepares to roll out the $12.5 million project, Joy News' Matilda Wemega joined a team of journalists who were given a guided tour of the drone program in Rwanda.
At the Ruhango Provincial Hospital in Rwanda, doctors and nurses are now used to the fact that they can collect blood packages dropped by drones from the sky and go ahead to transfuse their patients who often need it on emergency. Before this hospital was signed onto the zipline drone service, it typically took 4 to 5 hours of a round trip to secure blood from the capital Kigali for patients. The delays often results in loss of lives. Dr. Richard Osai-Beniza is Director General of the Ruhango Provincial Hospital.
We were supposed to use 4 to 5 hours round trip to get blood. From here to Kigali, parking, round trip could take us 5 hours. So financially it was cost because there is a matter of fuel for that car, time consuming, and thirdly, if you have emergency, we couldn't save that person having round trip to get blood replacement. Even if we could be having blood bank in our hospital, but you had some maximum limit of unit to be stored in the blood bank of the hospital.
With an average of 40 deliveries per day within an 80-kilometer radius, the Zipline Center receives regular blood supplies from the National Center for Blood Transfusion from Kigali to hospitals who are in need of blood. The government of Rwanda has signed 21 hospitals onto the Zipline platform. Medical doctors at Rwanda say using drones in the delivery of blood is yielding results in health facilities in the remotest parts of the country.
Patient satisfaction, they are seeing drones that first, and they know that those drones are not filming, are not doing anything else. They are here to save their life. They are here to deliver blood. So they are safe. They know that anytime there may be a case of bleeding or need of blood, not only bleeding on surgery, even any anemia secondary to any pathologic condition. In few words, they are safe. They know that anytime they need blood, we will use drone and blood will be delivered to them.
For these medical experts, drone delivery means hospitals can also store less blood, which means less waste as blood spoils quickly. After 2 years of operation in the country's southern and western provinces, the use of drones to deliver blood and other medical supplies will be expanded to the eastern province of Rwanda in the coming days. In Ghana, the $12.5 million medical drone contract has been the center of controversy in the last few months. But there may be some lessons to learn from the Rwandan experience. For Joy News, Matilda Wemega, Ruhango, Rwanda.
Coming up in business, savings and loans to finalize talks with another bank to help in meeting its financial obligations to customers. I'm speaking of GN Savings and Loans. And Daryl Kwao has the details.